This manhwa starts off in one eerie evening with lightning striking in the background. The name of this manhwa is Sister. I am the queen of this life. So, prepare for one heck of a revenge-filled rollercoaster. In the enchanting realm of Taraskin, a foreboding tableau unfolded featuring our central protagonist Arya. Motivated by the profound love and unwavering loyalty she harbored for her betrothed, she found herself entangled in an act of treachery, orchestrating the demise of the crown prince. With resolute determination coursing through her veins, she commanded her guards with a menacing timbre to dispose of the crown prince. To which they obediently replied, "Yes, With a purposeful stride, she withdrew from the scene. As they removed the lifeless body, she found herself unable to shake the weight of her eerie achievement. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "I have perpetrated justice." Her words drifted off as she traversed the hallways strewn with the bodies of fallen soldiers. Suddenly, her eyes widened and her thoughts resonated in hushed tones. "I have committed treason as he ordered. Will he find contentment now?" Her frame quivered as her contemplation continued now that he is poised to ascend the throne. Her musings trailed off as she entered the opulent throne room, her gaze fixated on her paramour who sat regally on the throne. Internally, she pondered, will his affection for me deepen? Arya Dunn's fiancé Caesar occupied the throne with a sword clasped in his hand. His unwavering gaze was fixed upon her as he inquired what transpired. Overwhelmed by trepidation, she surveyed the scene. A drifted off as she traversed the hallways strewn with the bodies of fallen soldiers. Suddenly, her eyes widened and her thoughts resonated in hushed tones. "I have committed treason as he ordered. Will he find contentment now?" Her frame quivered as her contemplation continued now that he is poised to ascend the throne. Her musings trailed off as she entered the opulent throne room, her gaze fixated on her paramour who sat regally on the throne. Internally, she pondered, will his affection for me deepen? Arya Dunn's fiancé Caesar occupied the throne with a sword clasped in his hand. His unwavering gaze was fixed upon her as he inquired what transpired. Overwhelmed by trepidation, she surveyed the scene. A tableau of lifeless soldiers and scattered bodies, and fear gripped her. Summoning her courage, she turned towards him and conveyed, "I have eliminated the Crown Prince Alfonso." The weight of those words settled upon sighs, or evoking a perceptible sigh of relief in that moment, he declared Ariata. "And you have acted admirably." Her apprehension mingled with a delicate smile upon her lips. Drawing closer, he continued, "The moment is offered tune once this is resolved." He drew her near, his intense gaze, locking onto hers. "I shall raise you to the highest nobility in the kingdom." A smile graced Arian's features as she softly murmured Caesar. Emotionally overwhelmed, she held him close, her voice barely audible. "That is all I need. His happiness is my own, and as long as I'm with Caesar, I am capable of anything." But 9 years had elapsed since Caesar's successful coup d'état, propelling him to the position of regent within the kingdom. Alongside him, Ariata had fulfilled her role as the head of the palace's internal affairs, striving diligently to assume the responsibilities of the former queen. Nevertheless, 8 years ago, a web of gossip had woven its way through the palace's inner circles. Seated together, a group of women indulged in discussing palace matters, their voices hushed yet eager in a conspiratorial murmur. One lady ventured, "Can you believe it, Ariata? In the regions, wife practically governs the palace." Disapproval tinged her tone. She grew up on a farm. It's astonishing to think such a common woman holds this position. Unbeknownst to them, Ariadne was seated within earshot or attention ensnared by their words. Another lady chimed in, her voice dripping with judgment. Truly, a woman of such background can hardly be considered nobility in this central aristocracy. The conversation then shifted as one of the women mused aloud. "I wonder when Duke Caesar will finally marry." A fellow companion responded with skepticism. "You don't think he'll marry his current fiancée, do you?" The discussion grew more intriguing for Ariad in her focus, deepening as one woman boldly asserted, "No, I doubt it. He vehemently denies the prospect," she added. "He refuses to wed someone of illegitimate birth." At this area Den's fingers clenched her dress and she grazed her ring finger bearing the mark of a severed engagement ring, murmuring, "Let them chatter as they will, Caesar's love for me prevails." Interrupting their chatter, the Countess joined the conversation, a sly smile playing on her lips. "Have you all heard the rumors?" she posed, her voice laden with insinuation. "Duke says." "Ah, it seems, as the child of a concubine." Ariadne's expression hardened at the mention of Duke Caesar, her resentment palpable. Another lady added to the speculation. Their voices hushed yet eager in a conspiratorial murmur. One lady ventured, "Can you believe it, Ariata? In the regions, wife practically governs the palace." Disapproval tinged her tone. "She grew up on a farm. It's astonishing to think such a common woman holds this position." Unbeknownst to them, Ariadne was seated within earshot or attention ensnared by their words. Another lady chimed in, her voice dripping with judgment. "Truly, a woman of such background can hardly be considered nobility in this central aristocracy." The conversation then shifted as one of the women mused aloud. "I wonder when Duke Caesar will finally marry." A fellow companion responded with skepticism. "You don't think he'll marry his current fiancée, do you?" The discussion grew more intriguing for Ariad in her focus, deepening as one woman boldly asserted, "No, I doubt it. He vehemently denies the prospect," she added. "He refuses to wed someone of illegitimate birth." At this area Den's fingers clenched her dress and she grazed her ring finger bearing the mark of a severed engagement ring, murmuring, "Let them chatter as they will, Caesar's love for me prevails." Interrupting their chatter, the Countess joined the conversation, a sly smile playing on her lip. Indeed, I heard the same whispers suggest Duke Caesar isn't the prince's cousin, but rather his half-brother. A smirk touched the countess's lips, and she proclaimed a child born of concubine edges, a fate bereft of heavenly blessings. Such lineages renders Duke Caesar too lowly to ascend the throne, unable to bear the effronteria. Aiden's temper flared and she seized the countess as her demanding retract. Your words, do you think you can utter whatever pleases you? She pulled harder, her grip unyielding as she commanded. Apologize this instant. If you must talk about someone, let it be me. Her grip remained unrelenting, and her eyes blazed as she challenged the countess. Do not speak ill of Caesar with those unworthy lips of yours abruptly. Caesar's voice resonated through the room. What's transpiring here? Astonishment was evident as she whispered. Caesar. He approached them. Concern edged upon his features. Addressing the fallen countess, Countess Marquez, with genuine worry, he questioned. Are you all right? Extending his hand, he offered assistance, urging, take my hand and rise. The countess's tone held an edge of sarcasm as she remarked. It appears you've learned palace etiquette unlike someone else present. Ariata Anne found herself taken aback by Caesar's unexpected support of the countess. She experienced a sense of displacement, as her beloved Caesar favored. The countess's stance. Caesar turned his attention to Orient in drawing her close, and reproached her. What are you doing among the central aristocracy? His voice held a note of exasperation. Don't you understand that I require staunch allies? His gaze pierced Turner's and he continued. Someone like the Countess who proves more useful than you. Ariata. His confusion deepened, her mind racing to comprehend his words. His reprimand persisted. As long as you act impulsively, how can I consider making you my wife? He challenged her, transform into a wise, virtuous woman of talent, one who wouldn't embarrass me. With those words, he turned away, decreasing. Only then will I take you as my wife. However, Ariadne believed that was all she needed to do. Yet 8 years had come and gone, and she still remained his fiancée. In a nocturnal interlude, Ariadne and Nances are laid together in bed. Caesar's gaze settled upon her, and he spoke. As a benevolent ruler, I must wield the influence of the departed Alfonso to my advantage. As their intimate moments unfolded, Oriordin hesitated, murmuring, "Will. Wait, says our." However, he persisted, drawing nearer and whispering, "Stay still." As their fervent connection deepened, Oridan's inner thoughts echoed. If I exert myself more, says I will make me his wife, I can endure this. Succumbing to the passionate encounter, Cesar interjected. By the way, I believe Isabella will be crowned queen. Departed Alfonso to my advantage. As their intimate moments unfolded, Oriordin hesitated, murmuring, "Will. Wait, says our." However, he persisted, drawing nearer and whispering, "Stay still." As their fervent connection deepened, Oridan's inner thoughts echoed. If I exert myself more, says I will make me his wife, I can endure this. Succumbing to the passionate encounter, Cesar interjected. By the way, I believe Isabella will be crowned queen. Ariana was taken aback, querying. What did you just say? The shock pushed her to push him away, exclaiming, my sister was Alfonso's wife. Marrying an impure widow is impossible. Caesar countered remarriage is permissible, as Isabella maintained her purity throughout her marriage. Would you rather see your sister become a forlorn widow in a chilly monastery like others? In protest, Aria and revealed, my sister isn't pure. She bore my brother-in-law's child and had a miscarriage. Caesar's gaze turned, menacing, his grip tightening as he sneered. I've heard women can be the enemies of women, but you sisters seem to prove that right. How disgraceful for a woman to be so debased. In a swift motion, Sichar pushed her to the ground. Aryotin left stunned, trembling hands and quivering voice. She cried out. You told me you loved me. Clinging to him, she pleaded. You promised to stay by my side forever to make me your queen. Tears cascaded down her cheeks. Says ours. Gaze remained fixed on her as he uttered. You truly are a pitiable woman who obstructs me. Your stark contrast to noble Isabella is evident. The word struck Ariadne like a blue stammering. She countered. It can't be true you were in love with my sister, even when Crown Prince Alfonso was alive. Replying. Isabella was destined for me from the start. Only the most exquisite woman befits a formidable man. His tone Such lineages renders Duke Cesar too lowly to ascend the throne, unable to bear the effronteria. Aidan's temper flared and she seized the Countess as her demanding retract. Your words, do you think you can utter whatever pleases you? She pulled harder, her grip unyielding as she commanded. Apologize this instant. If you must talk about someone, let it be me. Her grip remained unrelenting, and her eyes blazed as she challenged the Countess. Do not speak ill of Caesar with those unworthy lips of yours abruptly. Caesar's voice resonated through the room. What's transpiring here? Astonishment was evident as she whispered. Caesar. He approached them. Concern edged upon his features. Addressing the fallen Countess, Countess Marquez, with genuine worry, he questioned. Are you all right? Extending his hand, he offered assistance, urging, take my hand and rise. The Countess's tone held an edge of sarcasm as she remarked. It appears you've learned palace etiquette unlike someone else present. Ariata Anne found herself taken aback by Caesar's unexpected support of the Countess. She experienced a sense of displacement, as her beloved Caesar favored the Countess's stance. Caesar turned his attention to Orient in drawing her close, and reproached her. "What are you doing among the central aristocracy?" His voice held a note of exasperation. "Don't you understand that I require staunch allies?" His gaze pierced Turner's and he continued. "Someone like the Countess who proves more useful than you." Ariata. His confusion deepened, her mind racing to comprehend his words. His reprimand persisted. "As long as you act impulsively, how can I consider making you my wife?" He challenged her to transform into a wise, virtuous woman of talent, one who wouldn't embarrass me. With those words, he turned away, decreasing. "Only then will I take you as my wife." However, Ariadne believed that was all she needed to do. Yet 8 years had come and gone, and she still remained his fiancée. In a nocturnal interlude, Ariadne and Nances are laid together in bed. Caesar's gaze settled upon her, and he spoke. "As a benevolent ruler, I must wield the influence of the departed Alfonso to my advantage." As their intimate moments unfolded, Oriordin hesitated, murmuring, "Will wait," says Our. However, he persisted, drawing nearer and whispering, "Stay still." As their fervent connection deepened, Oridan's inner thoughts echoed. "If I exert myself more, says I will make me his wife, I can endure this." Succumbing to the passionate encounter, Caesar interjected. "By the way, I believe Isabella will be crowned queen." Ariana was taken aback, querying, "What did you just say?" The shock pushed her to push him away, exclaiming, "My sister was Alfonso's wife. Marrying an impure widow is impossible." Caesar countered, "Remarriage is permissible, as Isabella maintained her purity throughout her marriage. Would you rather see your sister become a forlorn widow in a chilly monastery like others?" In protest, Aria and revealed, "My sister isn't pure. She bore my brother-in-law's child and had a miscarriage." Caesar's gaze turned, menacing, his grip tightening as he sneered. "I've heard women can be the enemies of women, but you sisters seem to prove that right. How disgraceful for a woman to be so debased." In a swift motion, Sichar pushed her to the ground. Aryotin left stunned, trembling hands and quivering voice. She cried out, You told me you loved me." Clinging to him, she pleaded, "You promised to stay by my side forever to make me your queen." Tears cascaded down her cheeks. Says Ours. Gaze remained fixed on her as he uttered, "You truly are a pitiable woman who obstructs me. Your stark contrast to noble Isabella is evident." The word struck Ariadne like a blue stammering. She countered, "It can't be true you were in love with my sister, even when Crown Prince Alfonso was alive." Replying, "Isabella was destined for me from the start. Only the most exquisite woman befits a formidable man." His tone shifted and he continued, Absolutely devastated and shaken to the core, she wept on the floor. Defiance ignited within the victimized maiden, and she quavered, her voice laden with determination. I committed treason for you. I sacrificed my ring finger for you with fierce resolve, she continued. I relinquished my honor, my marriage, my very life. The agony of her tears mixed with her words, and she concluded, I surrendered everything. Settling silence lingered, interrupted only by Caesar averting his gaze, declaring, is there someone out there, Lady Ariata, and has lost her sanity? Witnessing his dismissal, Ariatin's fury ignited abruptly. Caesar issued a command, confine her to the West Tower. As they carried her away, she cried out, Caesar! The following day, trapped within the tower, Ariada lay helpless whilst reminiscing upon memories of a past conversation with Caesar, in a garden stroll. Caesar had been captivated by a delicate flower. Turning to Ariadne, he remarked, do you know that lilies of the valley are known for their purity and obedience? They remind me of you. His words had brought a smile to Ariadne's lips, and she had softly responded by calling his name. Now back to the present day. In the tower, the distant strains of music and murmurs of people caught Ariadne's attention. She whispered to herself, could this be a dream? Today is the day of the coronation ceremony. Her thoughts shifted back in time, recalling how she had meticulously planned the event for Caesar. She mused softly. Usually I would be by his side, standing as the lily of the valley outside pales in comparison to the cherished rose that blooms in the greenhouse. Just then her sister Isabella entered the room, greeting her with concern. Did you sleep well? My younger sister Aria, in surprise, was evident, or voice uncertain as she uttered Isabella. An uneasy silence hung in the air. Aria. Adam's query lingering. Why have you come here? Her words trailed off as she noticed the smirk on Isabella's face. Frustration welled up within her, and she clenched her teeth in anger, questioning. Sister, tell me what is between you and Caesar? Our words faltered as Isabella countered. You. How dare you speak ill of my husband? Ariadne's shock reverberated as Isabel's words hit her with a solemn tone. She murmured, if this is about what I did to Prince Alfonso, then I apologize. Isabella's smirking response was cutting. Alfonso. No, I'm talking about, says. Are you foolish girl, O'Riddens? Confusion deepened, her voice shaky as she inquired what. Isabella continued, her tone venomous. Isn't it only fitting that I become the most illustrious woman in this kingdom? She continued, her anger palpable. But how audacious of you to vie for the position of queen in my realm. You should have had the sense to end the engagement yourself. Isabella's steps brought her closer to Ariadne, her words binding as she continued. Because of you, I'm a widow. I had to endure rumors of pregnancy and indoor slander that besmirched my name, she challenged. How do you intend to take responsibility for that, Marriott? Unquestioned. Is that why you're upset? The retort came swiftly. And what about Prince Alfonso? He genuinely cherished you. Isabel's reply was sardonic. But don't all men adore me? Her gaze fixed on Ariata, and as she continued, a knowing smile playing on her lips. If you ask me to reciprocate every man's affection, should I become a harlot and sleep with all of them in the name of love? At that moment Ariata unclenched her dress, her voice trembling. Do you even love Caesar? She persisted. If that were true, you could have been his fiancée from the start. Yet you were the one who foisted this engagement upon me. Her anger surged and she demanded, so why are you doing this now? Silence hung in the room momentarily. Isabel's response came with cold resolve. Because back then, Caesar was a mere count. She stepped closer, her voice dripping with malice. But now everything is different. After the coronation, he will be king, and whoever marries him will be queen. Isabella's voice turned menacing. It's unfortunate that Alfonso had to die, yet he couldn't make me the most magnificent. He was everything to me, more precious than my own life. She shifted her attention to Isabella, her voice charged with accusation. You don't even love him. Yet, all anger surged just because you desire to be the most glorious woman. You shattered my relationship with him. Isabella chuckled, her tone taunting. Merely the most glorious woman, that's all. The room fell into a heavy silence. Their gazes locked. Isabella's laughter broke the stillness and Tin's glare only intensified. Isabella's amusement persisted, and she looked at our EOD in quipping. Did you know? Cesar knelt before a woman who only wants to be the most illustrious. She continued, her smile cruel. He confessed. There wasn't a single moment he didn't think of me. Ariane was dumbfounded, taking in Isabella's words. Isabella continued. He said you were too curvy, like a man. Your black hair was too dark, resembling a raven. Your breasts were too big, akin to otters. Isabella's stone turned triumphant. But he told me I am beautiful and delicate enough to want to hold me forever in his arms. He praised my golden hair, calling it angelic with a smirk. Isabella concluded. Now tell me, has any man desired you like that, even once? Ariane was hesitant, her heart aching as memories of her interactions with Caesar flooded her mind. How she had striven to please him only to be pushed away and neglected. Isabel's gaze fixed on our EOD and her smile, knowing as she turned away musing. They say if you devote your life to a man, you'll never receive anything in return. Their eyes met again and Isabella's smirk persisted as she declared men don't understand gratitude, so don't trust them. Instead, elevate your value and make yourself someone worthy of being fought for. Harriet, in her spirit renewed, knelt down, murmuring, "No way Caesar wouldn't." Her words faded and Isabella turned, whispering, "I bet he's yearning for me so intensely. He's losing his mind. But as time goes on, he'll grow tired of me. Then he'll remember you, who remained faithfully by his side for 14 years. Ariadne was left speechless as Isabella continued, her tone decisive. "I don't want complications in the future." She turned toward Ariadne, her smile beautiful yet chilling. "So I'll make it swift and painless." Just then, a figure appeared from behind. Ariadne lunged a knife toward her. Isabella watched the scene unfold, taunting after all. "You're my dear little sister." With that Ariadne fell to the floor, a knife piercing her, pain coursing through her body. As she lay there, she whispered, "This isn't fair. Why did I sacrifice everything for a love that was never reciprocated?" The questions echoed within her as she pondered where it all went wrong, wishing she could turn back time and adhere to the golden commandment. Suddenly she found herself transported back to her younger self, to a place from her past. She looked at her smaller hands, realizing this is my younger self. "In all," she murmured, "I'm back." Her attention was drawn to the dried tears on her face, and as a nanny entered the room chiding her, Ariadne's resolve solidified. "This time, I'll protect myself. I won't remain passive any longer." Another lady entered, announcing Ariadne. "A man from the castle is here to bring you back." Ariadne looked at her and whispered, "If that's the case, today is the day my father called me back." In the grand chamber, her father, Cardinal de Mer, held a lofty title. Yet he led a life akin to that of any cardinal in that era. Despite his clerical status, he shared his life with a wife and children. Much like the societal norm, his wife could not bear him legitimate children, leading him to take Lucretia of aristocratic lineages as his mistress. Astonishingly, Lucretia conducted herself as though she were the official wife. You faced your share of hardships despite not having proper educational opportunities. You've grown, and I'm glad. Ariadne muttered under her breath. "I'm grateful for his show of care, even if it's just through words. Speaking up," she replied. "I'll make an effort to learn and be more compliant. I'll strive to bring honor to our family name and not bring shame to our parents and siblings." Her words trailed off as her stepmother Lucretia interjected naturally. "Don't disgrace me, Ariadne's." Gaze shifted to her stepmother. Lucretia continued, "A woman's virtue isn't solely about learning and refinement. When young, you care for your parents and siblings. As you age, you look after your husband and children," she emphasized. "Politeness is essential. Be a graceful woman." Ariadne glanced at her, murmuring under her breath, "I once believed that Lucretia epitomized noble woman standards. Now I see she's no different from the common folk." With a smile lingering on her lips, Ariadne and Boden said, "I'll do my best to embody your guidance, madam." Lucrezia, puzzled by the choice of address, turned to her husband and asked Madame Ariadne's stepmother looked back at her and repeated. Madame Lucretia smirked subtly and asserted, "Please call me Mom." A pleasant smile graced her features as she added, "Thank you." Amidst this exchange, Isabella entered the room, apologizing for her tardiness. Ariadne felt a jolt as Isabella's voice reached her ears, her body quivering at the sound. Isabella welcomed her back to the family, her tone warm. Ariadne and trembled Isabella, smile drawing her in. "If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me," Isabella said, her gaze on Ariadne. Turning away Ariadne's, emotions surged as memories of the betrayals Isabella had perpetrated against her resurfaced under her breath. She whispered, "Isabella." Their eyes met. Ariadne's expression one of bewilderment, while Isabella looked at her with an inviting smile. Ariadne averted her gaze, the memory of Isabella's past actions haunting her. Her voice dropped as she muttered, "Once upon a time, I thought of Isabella as the epitome of beauty and perfection. She shone like the sun in the sky, drawing everyone near. So I clung to her." She continued, "Isabella reduced me, made me cower, and when she smiled beautifully as always, she stabbed me in the back." Focusing her gaze on Isabella, Aria then muttered determinedly, "Isabella, I won't lead a cowardly life like before." Isabella noticed Terry Adams' expression and appeared perturbed, offering her hand with a smile. She said, "We're sisters, after all. Just call me sis." Ariadne smiled and replied, "Thank you, sis." A serene atmosphere enveloped the room, and Cardinal de Maya observed the harmony within the family with a contented smile. A few days later, Isabella confronted her father, expressing her dissatisfaction with her impending marriage. She retorted, "Father, I don't want to marry him. There are rumors that he's a stepchild and you always told me to elevate our family name. If I become a mere count's wife, I can't attain the highest status among noble women." Her father was momentarily at a loss for words. Taking off his glasses and placing them on the table, he replied, Yes, I know. Despite being declared a prince's cousin, Count Caesar is the emperor's stepchild," he then declared. "I have no intention of marrying my daughter to an illegitimate child." Isabella was exhilarated by her father's proposition. Her mother glanced at her and chimed in Cardinal. A subtle smile graced her lips as she added, "An illegitimate child is compatible with another illegitimate child." Asserting her stance, she continued, "Let Ariadne go." Her father mulled over her words before asking, "Marry it," and he continued, "She's the daughter born of the cardinal and the former maid. She must be working on the farm at this moment." Grinning, he said. Yes, Ariad. And in Ariadne's room she pondered the purpose of her return to her previous life. Marriage seemed to be the reason prompting her to mutter, I mustn't repeat the errors of my past. What can I do? I'm no longer naive enough to believe in such idyllic fantasies. Above all, the memory of her past encounters with Caesar is neglect, and her sister's betrayal flooded her thoughts, fueling her rage. She muttered fiercely, They will pay for their sins. At that moment, a maid entered her room, startling her. As the maid approached, she announced, I've brought your clothes, Ariata, and glanced at her, whispering Isabel's trusted servant. Her words trailed off as the maid's glare met hers, and she sternly requested change your clothes and come to dinner. In her thoughts, Ariata and muttered Marletta. She stood up and asked, Are you busy? Marletta, walking away, responded. Yes, Ariana asserted. Can't you assist me in getting dressed? Marletta countered. Ha, you're no noble lady. Can't you manage on your own? She continued. You dress yourself daily on the farm, don't you? As she walked away, she mumbled. You act like a noble lady already. In an instant, Ariata and seized her, delivering a swift slap to her face, causing her to stumble, retorting Ariad and said you should understand your place before being rude to others. Molette. His eyes welled up with tears as she countered. Hey, if you're born of a servant, isn't your situation the same as ours? Marriott hesitated, glaring at Moletta. She retorted. Actually, the cardinal himself is an orphan, not from a noble family. So you're not even the stepchild of nobility. Continuing, she asserted. The other two young ladies have that status because their mother is noble. How are you different from us? With a mischievous smile, she added. By any chance, if I manage to catch the cardinal's eye tomorrow, wouldn't my child then have the same status as you? Swiftly, Ariadne delivered another slap across Molette's face, causing her to fall to the ground. She retorted. This is the consequences for insulting my father and for your jealousy. Fixing her gaze on Moletta, she asserted. Mind your words, leave. Marletta trembled, her eyes brimming with tears, and she hurriedly left the room, slamming the door behind her. In that moment, Ariadne murmured. What more letters said holds a point. Everything I have now hinges on my father. Clinching a page of her book, she muttered. But I'll never surrender my life to a man again. To ensure that first and foremost, I need to develop my own strength. The door swung open and her stepmother Lucretia entered, exclaiming Ariadne. She was accompanied by Isabella and Marletta, glaring at Ariata, and Lucretia approached her. Where do you think you are that you can casually strike people? Marletta sobbed, saying while I was arranging clothes. Miss Ariadne suddenly. Her words trailed off as Lucretia expressed her displeasure. You're cruel. Why does your character have to be so terrible, Arya? Arden hesitated, and then with a sense of remorse she nodded and said, Mother. Marletta insulted both you and father, which compelled me to act. Lucretia retorted, What, Arya? And continued. She referred to father as shameless, raising all the children who are nothing but illegitimate offspring as if they were royalty. Lucretia and Isabella were stunned by her revelation, while Marletta appeared bewildered. Look. Razia turned her gaze to Marletta, or expressions turn. Marletta shuddered and stammered. No, I only meant that the other two ladies are of noble birth. I wasn't trying to acquaint myself with them as tension filled the air. Ari Aiden interjected. There's more. She also said that father carries inferior blood. She carried on. The other two ladies are noble because they inherited their mother's noble lineages. She asserted that I only inherited the blood of lowly orphans, thus implying she needn't serve me. Sensing the tension in the room, Ariata and whispered under her breath. It might sound appealing to Lucretia, but the issue of cardinal bloodlines has always been the family's vulnerability. It's something she couldn't easily overlook, and most importantly, with a menacing grin, she declared. The crucial part is that Marletta mentioned. If she were to catch my father's attention and bear his child, that child would have the same status as me, negating the need for her to be respectful in that instant. Marletta trembled. Shifting her attention to Aid and Lucretia demanded, if that truly occurred, you should have reported it to me. Why did you suddenly strike the maid? Ari? Aiden hesitated, then Bowden said. My thoughts were shallow at the time. I was intending to reflect on my actions, she continued. I planned to spend 3 days at Rambo Aid Station. Lucretia retorted. Rambia Aid Station area in smiled and asserted. Furthermore, I wish to take Marletta with me because of my own shortcomings. I haven't been able to guide her properly. I intend to accompany her and reinforce her faith. Lucretia's words trailed off as Isabella chimed in. Wouldn't 5 days be even better? With a smile, she added. The longer you're away, the more thorough your self-reflection can be. Isn't that right? Ariata and smiled in agreement and said, exactly. After 5 days of introspection I shall return. Subsequently she embarked in her carriage towards Ramblai, Aid Station. As she arrived at her destination, she was taken aback by the sight of numerous sick people and children lying around. Marletta, who was accompanying her, couldn't help but tremble as they walked through the area. Ariatin's thoughts revealed Rambo Aid Station, just as I had anticipated. With a menacing smirk, she added. This is the perfect place for my plan. In the kingdom, Queen Margaret of Leo III had established the Rambo Aid Station to aid the impoverished. However, the Queen's budget alone couldn't fully support all those in need. Sadly, many of the poor who arrived at the aid station ended up perishing. As Arietta and Marletta entered the premises area, Din was taken aback by the dire living conditions of the people. Glancing at Marletta, she noticed her trembling and whispered with a smile, "She's shaking more than I anticipated." Chuckling, she added, "Marletta, for the next 5 days, it's just us. During this time, Isabel's protective shield won't be around you. How will you manage?" Marletta was left speechless by the question. Ariata and continued, "When Mother ordered you to be flogged 10 times. If Isabella had intervened, perhaps you might have been spared." With a smirk, she remarked, "It's rather pitiful." Molette's annoyance was palpable as she turned her face away, noting Molette's expression. Ariat smirked and murmured to herself, "I need to visit places where the poor are concentrated, just like here," she continued. "The reason I brought Marletta all the way here is because I want her to be obedient to me." As they continued walking, Molette's mind was clouded with worries, causing her to tremble even more in unease. Ariata murmured, "Perhaps this is the place where most of the destitute succumb among the destitute." In her thoughts she whispered, "If this place is truly what I've been seeking, then I'm certain." All words trailed off as a young girl's voice cried out from behind them, "Sister!" Both Oriorden and Marletta were startled, and Ariadne couldn't help but smirk as she muttered, "Found you." Swiftly turning to Marletta, she said, "Marletta, you see?" Marletta inquired what area. Aiden drew closer, her voice carrying menace as she whispered, "I'm referring to the young girl with the red hair over there." Marlette's spine shivered with dread as she stammered, "Yeah, you mean Area?" Didn't smirk deepened, her tone menacing. "That's your younger sister." Continuing, her voice carrying a chilling edge, she added, "Unless you heed my instructions, I'll let you remain here." In that moment, Marletta vividly envisioned the fury Area and could unleash Ariadne. Smirk persisted as she menacingly stated, "In that case, you'll share the fate of your younger sisters perishing in this place." Marletta countered, her voice trembling, I don't understand what you're implying. I know I was mistaken. Please stop." In her thoughts, Marletta mumbled, "You're genuinely terrified, aren't you?" But her words faded. Azari add-on interjected Marletta, "I'm sure you believe I'm fabricating this, right?" Suddenly she seized Molette's head and demanded, "Answer me." And in that instant Area, Tin fell into a trance. At the Rambouillet aid station, Isabella confronted Marletta and her sister. Isabella proclaimed, "I can only rescue one person from here. Between you two, who is more diligent and hardworking?" Marlette's sister pled and asserted, Eagerly, Marletta asserted, "I shall give my utmost effort, milady." However, Sansa, her sister, was bewildered by Marlette's actions as she exclaimed, "Sister!" Marletta retorted, "Hush, stay here. Once I earn a substantial amount, I'll rescue you." At least one family member must thrive to ensure our lineage's survival. Family, she asserted. Thus, please remain here and await my return. With those words, Maletta left her sister behind, who cried out in desperation. Sister, observing this area, then gasped as she regained her consciousness. Maletta, concerned, questioned. Lady, are you well? She continued. You suddenly froze in place and couldn't move. As they yard and composed herself, she whispered under her breath. What did I just witness? An illusion? Is this their past? Clenching her fists, she muttered. I need to ascertain this. With determination, she approached the young girl. Startled by Ariadne's actions, Maletta called out. Lady Azaria then drew near the girl, she whispered. What did I just witness? The young girl, her voice barely audible, asked. Sister, is that you drawing close? Arya Din gently inquired. How is your condition? Looking at her with hope, Ariata and whispered, Hey you, I have something to ask you. Sangza was taken aback as our EOD and pressed on. Do you have an older sister working in an affluent household? Sangza averted her gaze, her hesitation evident. Ariata, and persisted. Did your sister ever express the sentiment that one family member must prosper to assist the others? Startled, Sansa responded. How did you know that? Ariadne was taken aback, muttering. So what I saw is indeed true. Leaning in, she assured. All right, thank you. Wishing you a swift recovery, Sansa implored, her voice trembling. Wait, please wait a moment. Trembling with emotion, she pleaded. May I have a brief conversation with my sister? Since she left to serve in that wealthy household, we've lost contact. Please permit me to talk to her. Even just for a moment. Arya and turned to her and questioned. You mean your sister never contacted you once? Sansa confirmed. Yes, this is our first reunion since we parted ways, but I'm grateful you came to see me today. Arya, and was bewildered as she uttered. Never once extended a helping hand. Sansa pleaded in response. What? Yes. In the ensuing silence, a tense atmosphere filled the air with a piercing gaze. Arya and uttered Barletta. The revelation left her red-faced, turning to Mollett as she rebuked. You're saying you don't recognize this girl? Marletta averted her gaze and stuttered. Yes, I wasn't aware of that girl. Sansa. Her sister was puzzled by Mollett's ominous admission. In that moment, Sansa cried out. Please help me, rescue me. I beg you, save me, my lady. I implore you. Her plea carried a hushed intensity as she implored even more fervently. Please, I beseech you, save me. Ariata and gazed at her, rendered speechless. Turning to Maletta, she instructed. Go fetch the manager at once. As the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky ablaze with hues of orange and pink, Ariadne found herself seeking solace beneath the comforting shade of a tree. Exhaustion had gripped her, and under her breath she couldn't help but murmur. I'm so hungry. Earlier, she had instructed a guard to provide Sansa with additional food, yet he had rebuffed her, citing that he couldn't extend special treatment even to the cardinal's daughter. Undeterred, Ariadne had persisted, compelling the guard to share her own portion of the meal with the young girl. Her mind swirled with thoughts of how many days she had remaining. Her voice was a mere whisper. As she lamented, "I gave myself only a day. Yet it's been 3 days already." Her mind flickered to the illusions she'd shared with Marletta. Perplexed, she wondered, but what did I witness back then? Was it more lettuce? Memories? Lost in contemplation, she mused further. Though I attempted to re-trigger the visions by touching Marletta again, nothing happened. It seems I can't simply see them by touching skin. Abruptly, her musings were interrupted as someone extended an apple to her. Startled, her gaze shifted to the source. Memories of her shadowy past, of the treasonous act she had committed, flooded her mind. A handsome prince stood before her. Casting a glance at him, she mumbled. A bit unexpected, but a rare chance to get to know the prince better. As Prince Alfonso turned his attention back to her, she continued. I've been fasting for 4 days. Today I'm thankful for the nourishment. Prince Alfonso inquired. I heard you gave your food to a sick person. Ariadne chuckled, responding. Yes, it was just a coincidence. Inwardly, she pondered. What should I discuss to foster a connection with the prince? Prince Alfonso, his gaze fixed on her, confessed. You're truly remarkable. Startled, Ariadne looked at him with a smile gracing her lips. Prince Alfonso went on. I wouldn't have been able to part with my food. Ariana mirrored his smile and agreed. Me neither. Expanding on her thoughts, she added the bread at the aid station was unappetizing. It lacked milk and butter, resulting in a dry texture with only the taste of wheat and salt. Prince Alfonso was taken aback by her honesty, bursting into laughter. He exclaimed. I understand now. A smile formed on Ariadne's lips as she mumbled. Perhaps I don't need to feign awareness of his princely status. Amidst a brief lull, Prince Alfonso turned to her and asked, How long will you remain here? Ariadne didn't reply until tomorrow. Continuing, he queried. Will you continue offering your food to them until then? Ariadne then hesitated briefly, then revealed. Initially I only planned to give for today. With a playful smile, she concluded. However, thanks to the apple one received, I might continue tomorrow. Prince Alfonso's gaze remained steady on her, a smile forming on his lips. In a sudden motion, he wrestled through his pocket and produced some cookies, remarking. It would be nice to have something a bit more filling. These are all I have. Ariadne was taken aback by the gesture, murmuring. He's easier to approach than I thought. She spoke aloud, saying I appreciate it, I'll enjoy them. With that, she rose to her feet, declaring I must take my leave now. Prince Alfonso, caught off guard, questioned why the haste. Ariadne responded. I need to return before I'm caught. Farewell, sir. As she turned to depart, she whispered under her breath. I'm unsure when another opportunity like this will arise, yet it's been a pleasant day of closeness. A touch of regret wouldn't hurt. Observing her departure, Prince Alfonso fixed his gaze on her and queried, "But what's your name?" Ariadne was taken aback. With a gentle smile, she replied, Ariadne Maya." His eyes remained locked on her figure as she walked away. A few days later, within the grandeur of the cardinal mansion, Ariana and returned with Sansa Mollette's sisters to as they faced Lucretia and Isabella. Confusion wrinkled Lucretia's brow as she demanded, "Who is this child?" Ariadne calmly responded, "I brought her from the aid station." Incensed, Lucretia shot back, "Have you lost your senses? Do you presume to bring strangers into this mansion so thoughtlessly?" Her anger intensified as she continued, "You uttered apologies and claimed your mistakes, yet you continue your actions without care." In that tense moment, Ariadne extended a handkerchief to Lucretia. "Unreasoned mother, please inspect this." Dismissing her, Lucretia retorted, "Don't attempt to outwit me." It was then that Isabella's sharp eyes caught a symbol on the handkerchief and she exclaimed, "Wait, if it's the AFC emblem, could it be from Prince Alfonso de Carlo?" Closing the distance to our EOD and she probed, "How did you come by this Ariata?" And met her gaze knowingly thinking as expected, Isabella identified it immediately. Then she wove a tale. "I happened to cross paths with the prince at the aid station, given that the queen oversees the station. He must have been inspecting it, crafting her narrative," she elaborated. "My sole intention was to assist this child. However, the prince likely assumed I intended to hire her. In appreciation for Cardinal de Mare's kindness, he gifted me this handkerchief. If I were to refuse, it would tarnish the cardinal's honor, wouldn't it?" Yet even as she spun her life, her thoughts lingered on the truth, causing her to whisper, "Of course, it's all fabrication, but—" She trailed off, her thoughts dissipating as Lucretia snapped, "Even though he's a prince, it appears you hold our mansion in low esteem." Frustration filled Lucretia's voice as she continued, "Bringing uninvited people here. Do you find it amusing?" Or annoyance culminated as she ordered, "Remove that child immediately." Pushing Ariadne aside, she added, "You leave this place along with that vagrant," shocked area and muttered, "How can this be?" Perplexed, she added, "Things will be complicated if Sansa is expelled from here." However, Lucretia's fury knew no bounds as she thundered, "Both of you disappear from my sight unexpectedly." Isabella defied her mother's anger, exclaiming, "I'll also go to the ramble. Yeah, aid station." Shocked by her daughter's audacity, Lucretia threatened to strike her, warning, "Isabella, do you comprehend the horrors of that place you wish to venture?" Undeterred, Isabella continued, "I won't visit the aid station again, but on one condition." She pointed towards Sansa and insisted, "Except that beggar girl." Lucretia was taken aback and Isabella grumbled, "I must find a topic to engage Prince Alfonso during our tea party encounter. Since father denies me an introduction to him, I was compelled to devise this strategy." Reflecting on Isabella's intervention area and thought, "Thanks to impulsive Isabella, my path is clearer. By bringing Sansa into the mansion as a servant and eventually making her my full-time attendant." As Isabella shook the handkerchief at her, she affirmed, "I'll keep this as a keepsake." Turning away, she praised, "You handled this well." Despite the urge to stop her, Din hesitated inwardly. she whispered. It seems I remain as I was in my previous life, she conceded. That which was stolen shall remain stolen, the life I am capable of having. Her thoughts trailed off as Sansa's gratitude interrupted her introspection. Lady, I am indebted to you for saving me. I vowed to repay this favor. Her eyes met Sansa's, and with a gentle tap on her head, Ariadne replied, Thank you. A mutual understanding passed between them in that moment. Several days later, ascending the stairway, Ariata and overheard Lucretia and Isabella's conversation. A concoction of jealousy. Isabella excitedly inquired, Mother, why has the Queen extended an invitation to us all of a sudden? A slight chuckle escaped Lucretia as she conjectured perhaps word of our stunning Isabella reached her ears, and she desires to witness her beauty firsthand. With an air of anticipation, Isabella mused. Prince Alfonso will accompany us, won't he? I intend to carry this handkerchief just in case. Meanwhile, in Ariadne's room, Marletta conveyed Lucretia's instructions to Ariadne, preparing her for their outing. Brimming with enthusiasm, Sans up, hyped up, the royal palace carriage has arrived. They've requested Messaria Tin's presence to how special. Taken aback or? Eden echoed me. Her gaze shifted to the carefully selected garments on the bed, and she thought, if that's the case, then I shall accompany Lucretia and Isabella to the palace. With a mischievous intent, she approached Sansa and grinned. Sansa, how about we play a game of close swapping? In the kingdom, a cherished celebration unfolded, the Misa ceremony held in Gallico, the native language of Queen Margaret. Amidst the congregation, Lucretia and Isabella sat there, excitement palpable as the prayers commenced in their mother tongue. Notably aloof Ariata and commented under her breath, I don't comprehend a single word. Brimming with excitement in Gallico, Isabella proclaimed, I'm honored that the Queen invited me to speak about guns. Yes, axe sacrifice. Particularly my favorite part, right? Mom responding with enthusiasm. All mother agreed. Learning Gallico's national language proves valuable. Which part resonates most with you, Isabella continued. I prefer the second sacrifice of Gans. Yes, AC, amidst the native chatter, our yard, and rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath. I've only grasped and comprehend the word sacrifice. She followed with another mother. What incorrect? Today's Nisa revolves around the first sacrifice. Speaking to the congregation, Isabella asserted when Guns Yes, AC departed. Higher Populist was engulfed in sorrow and tears. His demise brought forth universal mourning and emotional turmoil. Her animated discourse led to murmurs and discussions among the seated members. A woman leaned towards her companion and whispered, "Even though she doesn't honor the saint's sacrifice, why would anyone feel envious of her relationship?" The companion replied, "At her age, shouldn't she have grasped self-reflection? Nothing to be gained from her display." Ariata and couldn't help but smirk as she muttered, "This isn't going unnoticed. Won't the entire cardinal family's reputation be tarnished?" In a solemn tone, Oriented, added too. "Most admire Gans. Yes, acts courage," she continued. "He must have been fearful as his life concluded." The congregation listened in awe, and a lady turned to her companion, whispering, "That young woman emanates kindness," for companion confirms she also radiates profound religiosity. "Here in this area," inside and muttered, "hopefully no one will further remark on the faith of a cardinal family member." Suddenly a lady clapped her hands and exclaimed, "Dear friends, now let us adjourn to the living room to partake in tea and cake." The congregation rose and left the hall, and as the queen passed by she mumbled under her breath, "Perceptive girl." Comprehend it. Gallico. In the lavish living room, a spread of delectable dishes adorned the table. Yet an undercurrent of tension filled the air as the Cardinal de Maya family was summoned by the Queen. Addressing the assembly, the Queen stated, "These are members of the Cardinal de Maya family. In preparation for my ceremony, I brought them here for everyone to become acquainted," she continued with a gracious tone. "Please take your seats." As the family settled, Lady Mark has his voice cut through Lady Isabella Estres's truly exquisite aria, and was taken aback by the sound, murmuring to herself, "Didn't expect to see her here in this manner." She recalled a past encounter when she had overheard Lady Marquez gossiping about her, which had led to a heated confrontation between them. With a smile, Lady Marquez inquired, "Where was it tailored?" Isabella explained, "Our family's female seamstress crafted it." Lady Marquez praised the tailor. "Skill is truly commendable. I wish to procure a similar dress for my daughter, but regrettably such a piece cannot be obtained at the Western store," Lucretia chimed in. "In that case, leave it to our tailor, Lady Marquez. Your patronage is always welcomed." A simple smile was Lady Marquez's response. Another lady interjected, "It appears that Taylor hasn't yet crafted clothes for the second daughter." Isabella was taken aback by the comment. The lady continued, "Mustn't overwhelm her with more work. Come to think of it, the attire of the two girls is so dissimilar," she asserted. That was a rather unsavory maneuver. Expression sourdough. Upon hearing this, the lady furthered. Even though she's an illegitimate child, she's still part of the family, she added. A virtuous woman should tend to all children. Hearing this, a faint smile raced Story, Otten's lips, and hushed whispers rippled among the ladies. Indeed, sister. Adding this dress is truly lovely on me. She purposely revealed the stain beneath the dress, causing the other ladies to gasp in surprise. Rising to her feet hidden, displayed the dress, and proclaimed, "I'm uncertain if this was the dress she used to wear, yet I'm genuinely content with it." Inwardly, she mumbled, "If I want to present this appearance to everyone, I need to plan to this extent." The ladies exchanged bewildered comments on the entire appearance. One of them was word. "Observe her undergarments," another mused. "The stain appears to be from kitchen work, doesn't it?" A third observed. "The inner clothing is already yellowing," yet another gas. "Even if one claims it's a servant satire, I'd be inclined to believe it." As tension escalated in the room area and couldn't help but smirk while deliberating, the ladies then shifted their focus to the pre-season, concluding, "It seems that this lady raised the Cardinal de Mars' daughter as a servant and she was left flabbergasted." In a swift turn of events, another lady directed her attention towards Isabella, inquiring, "Isn't this a dress is about the left behind?" Isabella's response was shaky and hesitant. "Yes." Her words trailed off as the Queen's commanding voice see everyone silence. A hush settled over them. The Queen continued, her gaze locked onto Isabella. "I have a question for the Cardinal's eldest daughter." The focus intensified and the Queen went on the undergarments. "Are they your own?" Isabella standard that finally the Queen stated. "Very well, Madame Doorways. Please escort your eldest daughter home." "Look." Previous face contorted with bewilderment, anger, a trouble escaped area his lips as she softly muttered, "I've just been openly addressed as a mistress," adding, "I can't help but feel embarrassed for you." The Queen issued another command and take the Cardinal's second daughter back inside dresser in a more suitable attire. Her maiden knowledge of course area and was taken aback, and under her breath she whispered the path to the Queen's in her palace. Azari Adin and the Queen's maid proceeded down the corridor area. His gaze wandered and memories resurfaced as she whispered, "In a past life when she was the usurped queen. I grew quite familiar with this palace over 9 years." Plunging her dress lightly, she muttered, "Honestly, I wish I could erase it from my memory. and suddenly a throbbing headache set in. Just then, they made ahead of her announced salute to Prince Alfonso. Everyone was taken aback. Blurting out Alfonso meeting her gaze, Alfonso himself uttered Aria in drawing closer to him. She feigned surprise and asked Alfonso. "You're a prince, Alfonso?" Locking eyes with her responded about that the maid was flustered by Redin's behavior. "Lady Tamra, your manners are quite lacking," she continued. "The individual before you is the only child of Queen Margaret and King Leo. The third Prince Leo de Carlo, His Majesty's." The maid spoke. Ariata. Thoughts raced. "Madame Carla, even though she's a cardinal's daughter, she shouldn't need to kneel before the Queen," she continued. "But Madame Carla holds the position of a trusted lady in waiting to Queen Margaret." "Self-folding," she whispered. "Which means everything that occurs here will inevitably reach Her Majesty's ears." With a curtsy she offered, "I deeply apologize for my unintentional disrespect. Please pardon my lapse." And courtesy Prince Alfonso sighed and addressed the maid, "Carla. I intentionally didn't inform her. Moreover, our Eden is my friend," Carla retorted. "Your Highness." "What do you mean, friend?" Prince Alfonso elaborated. "A friend is someone who accepts you for who you truly are. If that doesn't describe a friend, what does?" The tension escalated. As Carla argued, society's divisions are based on one's identity, noble status, inherent qualities. All are contingent on that, she asserted. "You must not forget your true position, Your Highness." Observing the tense exchange, Aria couldn't help but muse. He's clearly a teenager grappling with purity, that rather absurd expression. "It's enough to drive anyone crazy," she continued. "Even this young dandy who's seemingly a model student isn't immune to the rebellious phase of adolescence." "Ha!" Our thoughts trailed off as she realized Prince Alfonso was gazing at her and she was caught off guard in an instant. He seized her hand, pulling her along and urgently exclaimed, "Ariata, and come on us." "Carla," the maid protested. "Prince, where are you taking her, Prince?" In an instant they emerged outside beside the water fountain, Prince Alfonso scanning the vicinity to ensure their privacy. Startled by the sudden release of her hand, Ariadne struggled to regain her composure. Her breath slightly uneven. She managed a smile and teased. "Your Highness." "Your reaction was quite lively," Prince Alfonso retorted. "Just call me Alfonso," amused by his playfulness. Aria and couldn't help but chuckle. "How could I be so impolite, my dear Your Highness?" Prince Alfonso pleaded. "Please stop," he whispered. "If you insist on addressing me formally, then what was the point of coming out here?" Gazing at him with a glint of mischief, Ariata and suggested, "How about we come up with nicknames for each other?" Prince Alfonso's expression shifted to surprise as he looked at her intrigued. Sporting a mischievous smile, he responded, "So just playful nicknames, not actual names." "Quite confident, aren't you, my lady?" Settling herself on the ground, Ahadin added, "If I call you by your name like before, people would recognize you as a prince." In her thoughts she pondered an adolescent in the throes of puberty, rebellion with desire, recognition from others. Prince Alfonso turned towards her, contemplating the suggestion. At that moment, Aria didn't used in her thoughts. Perhaps recommending a secret connection is too tempting for him to resist. A playful smirk crossed Prince Alfonso's lips as he declared, "Then that's the only way." Harriet's smile widened as she encouraged yes. With mutual consent, they began suggesting different nicknames. Oriented. Proposed. What about Al? Sounds a bit too rustic, Prince Alfonso dismissed, and Fonso sounds quite contrived. Area 10s. Laughter filled the air, and in that moment she gently took his hand, using his palm as a canvas to inscribe D-Ray, accompanied by a soft smile. Prince Alfonso found himself entranced by the gesture. His cheeks flushed. He clenched his fist, grappling with his feelings. A moment of silence lingered between them, and then Prince Alfonso broke it. Admitting there are certain words, I hesitate to say. Rihanna's surprise was evident as she turned her attention to him. He continued, his voice tinged with vulnerability truthfully. My mother summoned you here because of me. She learned about our meeting at the rescue moment, where I went, who I encountered. All will be reported to her, he added. Especially now, having met a girl, it's bound to capture her attention, Ariana, and stole a glance at him, whispering under her breath. I had assumed he was carefree with nothing weighing on his mind due to his innocence. I think he's so attuned to his surroundings. Prince Alfonso carried on. Of course, I understand my mother's perspective. It's just that sometimes I feel as though... His words trailed off, leaving an unspoken sentiment hanging in the air. A brief pause followed, marked by silence. With a tentative smile, he finally spoke up. I'm monopolizing the conversation with my own concerns. Let's change the topic. Drawing closer, Arion leaned in her hand, head early, brushing his hair. A flush crept onto his cheeks. Captivated by her gesture. Gazing at him, Ariada murmured, You must be quite frustrated. Then, with a hint of reluctance, she withdrew her hand and announced, Madame Carla is searching for me. Her Majesty mentioned she provide me with some clothes. With those words, she began to walk away, her voice trailing. Have a pleasant day here. Prince Alfonso stood in silence, his cheeks still flushed as he watched her retreating figure amidst the opulent halls of the Cardinal's mansion. L.A. previous anger blazed, her voice dripping with rage as she uttered. Mr. Rosie. Dara was, how dare you publicly address me like I'm a mistress? Her wrath found an outlet as she thrilled, amazed to the ground, the shattering sound punctuating her fury. Eyes blazing, she fumed. An outsider coward daring to speak like that, to win a trust. In her voice dripped with disdain, her frustration manifesting in every word as she lashed out, Gallico, you filthy, arrogant nobles. Her anger found another outlet as he slammed yet another vase to the floor in the midst of this tumult area, then entered nonchalantly announcing, I'm home, mother. But the previous anger didn't waver. She sneered. Mother, have you ever seen what a mother means? Her voice a tempest of rage. She accused that bra. You're behind this, aren't you? Hesitated. Her inner voice urging her to play dumb and defuse the situation. She replied. That's not possible. I assure you it wasn't me. All of my clothes are just as they were. Undeterred, Lucretia shot back. Then who's responsible for that bra? She demanded. Search through her belongings. Turn a room inside out if you must. Ariata and couldn't help but smirk as her plan to implicate Lucretia was starting to take shape. She thought to herself, let's rile her up even more. No matter how much she searches my room, she won't find any bras lying around. Gazing at Lucretia airy, Aiden muttered under her breath. Time to make sure that blabbermouth Lucretia gets a taste of her own medicine. The sudden introduction of Marletta, who exclaimed Madam, threw Ariata into a state of horror. Molette's declaration followed. I know who did it. A wave of dread washed over Ariana as she realized her earlier oversight. She had neglected to instruct Molina to remain silent. At that moment, Marletta pointed accusingly at her sister, proclaiming it's her. This woman right here. Samson, taken aback, turned towards Ariana with an expression of unease. Their eyes met and they stood momentarily speechless. By a shared secret amidst the chaos, Lucretia seized Sansa by her hair and yelled. So you're the one stealing my lady's clothes? Sansa, in pain, protested. No, madam, it's not true. With the missing garment clutched in her hand, Maletta took pleasure in Sam's downfall. Crowing, "Look, madam, I found the robe on her bed." Her words further fueled Lucretia's scolding in that very moment. Ariadne's eyes narrowed with frustration and she whispered, "My elaborate scheme to place the blame on the Grecia has crumbled to pieces." But the words trailed off as Lucretia's expression transformed into one of fierce determination. Abruptly she delivered a resounding slap across Sansa's face, leaving the room stunned, not stopping there. Lucretia proceeded to stomp on Sansa, her anger palpable in the air. Ariadne stood frozen, her horror evident, her mind racing as she recalled how Sansa had once vowed to repay the favor after Ariana had saved her at the Rambo aid station, amid the bewilderment that gripped. Arya didn't caught a glimpse of a peculiar twist of fate, the notion of a second chance at life, a chance granted on the condition of following a simple yet profound rule, one that echoed in her thoughts. A sin repaid by us in a blessing by a blessing. Extend kindness to your neighbors if fortune you seek, but beware, for treachery follows those who bear hearts of hatred and vengeance. Within this cryptic declaration lurked a daunting query. Would you betray others for personal gain? Aiden shook her head, her voice low as she muttered. Why do these words find their way into my mind? Just then, Lucretia pounced, her weapon of choice a pen, her rage evident as she snarled. This lowlife knows nothing but stealing from women. As she lunged forward with the pen, Ariadne interjected. Wait. Desperation filled her voice as she rushed forward, positioning herself between Sansa and Lucretia, inadvertently exposing herself to danger. The pen pierced her back, the pain radiating through her sands. I looked on, bewildered, her eyes darting between the two. Stuttering, she called out my lady with the pen lodged in Arian's back. Samson noticed the injury, and cried out in horror. My lady, are you all right? Ariata in pain, whispered. Tell the truth quickly. Is it me? In that critical moment, Sansa took her by the hand and shook her head vehemently, urging her to remain silent. Ariana was taken aback by Sansa's reaction, left speechless by her actions. Recognizing the duo's shared intent, Lucretia snapped. What is this nonsense? Are you two plotting something right in front of my eyes? However, Lucretia's tirade was cut short by her husband's intervention. He reprimanded her. Enough. Are you trying to create a scene in our own house, no less? He chided her. How dare you, Lucretius? Frustration continued. My dear, why did you return now? Do you have any idea how embarrassed I was today? Amidst their escalating argument, Arya and Sansa seized the opportunity to escape, hastily retreating. Upstairs, alone in their room, Ayot attempted to speak, but Sansa was quick to act, her voice quivering as she addressed her. My lady, your shoulder. I must apply some medicine right away. Ariana's urgency didn't waver as she implored. Sansa, tell the truth. Sansa hesitated, caught in a moment of indecision, Ariana, and persisted. It's all my fault. Always, in the end. Why? Sansa's demeanor shifted, her smile softening as she turned away, then with a gentle turn back to Ariana and she spoke. My lady, you're the one who saved me. Ariana was taken aback by Sansa's heartfelt confession. Yet, Sansa continued, her voice truly sincere with raw emotion. She told her lady, for the rest of my life I'm indebted to you. I'll always be by your side, Ariana, and felt a surge of emotion. As her eyes welled up with tears, she whispered to herself. Someone abandoned by her family, even her lover. She's never had the luxury of knowing what it means to have someone by her side, and yet you chose to stand beside me. Her voice trembling, she uttered. Tears streamed down her face, her true intentions laid bare as she whispered. I brought you here to exploit your service for my own gain, not out of any desire to help. Not out of any desire to help, but why did you? Overwhelmed by her emotions, Aria then pulled Sansa into a tight embrace, her voice breaking as she confessed. "Stanza, I'm sorry. From now on, I'll protect you with all my mind," she vowed. "Not even Merletta will stand in my way." With resolute determination, she declared. "No one will ever threaten us again. You can rest." Assured several days later, Ariata and found herself troubled by the pain in her fingers. As she examined her fingers, she was transported back to the memory of losing one of them. Gazing at her hands, she questioned, "Why did it have to happen like that?" Just then, sans as observant, I caught Aria Dunn's discomfort, prompting her to scold. "If you keep scratching that insect bite, it might turn into a pimple." Responding to her, Aria then held up her finger and argued, "Look, Sansa, my finger isn't swollen. See?" Sansa dismissed her optimism, saying it's only been a day. "How can it not be swollen?" Taking in Sansa's response, Ariata sighed. "Is that so?" In that moment, Sansa scooted closer. Aria didn't own softening, as she remarked. "You know, you've changed a lot from my first impression of you," startled by the sudden topic. Sansa asked, "What was your first impression of me?" Unperturbed Aria then continued, "You looked like a kitten abandoned on the side of the road, but now you're more like a lion, completely different." Sansa, playfully shoving her, retorted, "Stop saying strange things, let's go prepare for our classes. Teacher Carlo Choa must be here by now." Aria. Instead, her eagerness evident as she replied, "Right, I better get studying quickly." Rushing to the doorway, she cast a glance at Sansa and promised, "I'll be back home from class soon." With that, Sansa waved her goodbye. Azuri. Aiden walked down the corridor. A sense of excitement filled her and she mumbled to herself, "When I'm with Sansa, I seem to lose track of time." A smile tugged at her lips as she added, "Once classes are over, I'll be back with Sansa." Her thoughts drifted off as she overheard a conversation from a nearby room that caught her attention. "You want to bring that child with you?" a voice asked. Intrigued, Aria positioned herself to eavesdrop on the conversation from within the room. A voice responded, "Weren't you the one who suggested bringing Aria and along to study together?" Another voice countered, "Yes, that was the past, but I've changed my mind. Now she's unruly and innocent, and it's exhausting to deal with." "Sure." A determined Aiden listened intently as the conversation continued. "If you can't tolerate being around her, why not marry her off to some duke? That's another way to get rid of her." These words struck Aria and leaving her horrified, but she knew there was more to the story. The only reason Cardinal de Maya had hesitated to marry off Isabella to Caesar was that he deemed her too valuable. Her worth was so high that it would be a waste to give her away to someone like Caesar. To him, Isabella was his most prized possession. He invested in her education, cultivated her and loved her, and his intention was clear: to trade her for more wealth and fame. He believed that the only person who could provide equal value for Isabella was none other than the heir to the throne, Prince Alfonso. With renewed determination, Laureate and whispered, "If Isabel's worth is based on her value, then I'll make sure my value surpasses hers. And if that's not enough, I will simply have to diminish Isabella's value." As she arrived at her class, Aiden hesitated by the door, hearing the commotion inside. With a determined grin, she opened the door and spotted Isabella already seated there. "Teacher Lady Romani made an announcement today. You'll be attending High Mass, therefore we'll conclude our lessons a little earlier than usual." Aria greeted her teacher in their native language, Gallico. "Good afternoon, Lady Romani." Her greetings surprised Lady Romani, who returned the courtesy. "My apologies for the intrusion. Please continue." Both Isabella and the young girl stared in astonishment, taken aback by Ariatin's fluency in Gallico. Lady Romani couldn't contain her on. Your accent is impeccable. Where did you learn it? Ariatin's chuckle was warm as she admitted. I once knew someone who spoke Gallico, she continued in their mother tongue. However, my grammar isn't quite up to par, but with your guidance, I'm confident I'll improve quickly. I'm truly grateful for that. Lady Romani was captivated as she praised Miss Oread. And not only is your Gallico flawless, but your etiquette is exceedingly refined. She exclaimed. This is truly remarkable. With a hint of self-deprecation, Aria then mumbled. I'm sorry, it's all from my previous experience. Suddenly the young girl interjected, her voice tinged with frustration. Hey, why are you so good at Gallico? This isn't fair. What kind of trick is this you're lying? Aria hushed her gently and advised young miss. It's not polite to raise your voice in front of your teacher. Lady Romani, still excited, couldn't help but comment. Emissary Aiden, you haven't had your debutante ball yet, have you? She continued with excitement. You'll have no trouble fitting into high society. Observing Lady Romanty's enthusiasm, Isabel's eyes darkened with envy. She muttered. All the attention should be on me. With a mix of bitterness and longing, she clenched her fists and muttered, how dare someone like Riyadh? And no, that's not it. Today, everyone in Sankei role will focus solely on me. As her imagination took flight, she envisioned herself dressed splendidly for the occasion. She mused. My figure will be accentuated by a snug corset, an appropriate cross pendant will nestle between my ample breasts, my makeup will be derived from the pearls of Toronto, and my cheeks and lips will be adorned in the hues of the roses of Gay. To the Etruscans' kingdom, operated under the principle of justifying sovereign rule through religion. The nobility and the royal family were believed to possess virtuous souls from their past lives, while commoners carried the burden of their past sins. This doctrine decreed that the virtuous souls of the royal family and nobility were responsible for governing and guiding the commoners towards enlightenment. In a kingdom founded on religious principles like this, a significant event took place once. Everyone from the king to the commoners gathered to listen to the words of God as delivered by the cardinal. This event was known as the High Mass. Today was the day of this momentous occasion. As the Mayer family, including Isabella, walked through the open doors, a group of people were awestruck by Isabella's appearance. In an excited tone, they exclaimed, "Look, it's Isabella de Mayer." One lady leaned into her companion and whispered, "She's wearing a blue dress today, and that Golden Cross rumor has it that Luca the jeweler specially crafted it for her." Another man, gazing at her, murmured, "How can someone be so beautiful? I wish I could talk to her even just once." With a smug smile, Isabella muttered to herself, "As expected, the spotlight is mine." With every step she took, confidence radiated from her amidst herself. Assuredness. A voice from the crowd whispered, "But who's the girl behind her?" Isabel's eyes widened as the whisper continued, "I've never seen her before." Startled, Isabella turned her gaze to Ari Aiden, who stood behind her. Isabella's snicker was evident as she assessed Aria Otten's appearance and muttered, "Look at her plain face, hair tied carelessly. That drab black dress and that cheap silver cross necklace." She flicked her hair dismissively and added, "How embarrassing." With that she walked away. While she did, Ariadne's eyes followed her, and with a menacing undertone she whispered, "Foolish Isabella." A sly grin curved her lips as she added, "No matter how hard you try to stand out, no one will remember you today because there won't be anything different from my past life," she continued in a hushed tone. "That incident will still happen." A sense of foreboding hung in the air as she whispered, "An unholy incident that will rock the very foundation of the kingdom and steal my engagement to Caesar. The victim of this incident will be King Leo III. He will plead with the cardinals for help saving the victim but binding him to my engagement to Caesar. But the victim entangled with Leo, the third son, Caesar, will be the insignificant daughter Aria." Again with renewed determination, she muttered, "If I can't alter the past now, then I'll have no choice but to endure another engagement with." These are her veins, pulsed with conviction as she pleaded with herself. "Please, please." Clenching her dress tightly, she added, "Ensure that the past remains unwritten." Meanwhile, says Ours' gaze was fixed on Isabella, watching her walk. He whispered, "Her name? Isabella Dimmer." A playful grin appeared on his lips as he added, "Just as I thought." Known as the most handsome man in San Carlo, he was a rare gem, possessing the finest horses and an entourage of stunning beauties. Caesar was a prisoner to his own allure. To top it off, he was the son of Countess Rubina, the king's favorite concubine, a coveted status that incited envy in everyone. As he observed Isabella, he mumbled, "She's probably the most sought-after woman in San Carlo, the perfect future wife." Caesar mentally noted his intention to discuss marriage with Cardinal Dimmer and, if opportunity allowed, to bring up the topic with his father next month. However, his thoughts were interrupted as he heard chuckling. From the balcony above, he turned to see Prince Alfonso engaged in conversation with the king. Enraged, Cesar clenched, his fists directing his anger towards Alfonso. Yet the truth was that recognition of Caesar as the king's son only happened within a secret chamber. Shaking off his irritation, Cesar muttered, "What is?" Attention shifted as he noticed Aria in among the crowd. Puzzled, he asked his mother, "Mother, who's that dark-skinned girl from the Mayer family?" His mother explained, "She's Cardinal de Mayer's second daughter from another relationship. She earned Queen Marguerite's approval before." Curious, Cesar prodded, "How did she manage that?" His mother's gaze met his and she responded, "Don't judge a book by its cover. If someone's discerning as Queen Marguerite likes her, she must be extraordinary." Cigar's confusion lingered as he inquired in what way. His mother met his gaze and advised, "Do you believe I've climbed to this position solely based on my looks?" Caesar hesitated before admitting, "Or it looks important." His mother sighed and muttered, "You're quite naive," interjecting says, unnoted. "The Armon is about to begin gazing at a figure below," he added. "He must be the apostle of Osiri to the apostle of Asarehe, to a figure adored by the destitute and downtrodden, in contrast to the teachings of the Bible that decreed those with a history of transgressions in past lives would be reborn as commoners. The apostle of vast array to propagated the notion that even the most humble could become a child of the Holy Spirit. By mastering and practicing the Holy Spirit's teachings, even commoners could attain elevated status." Addressing the congregation, he boldly proclaimed he was born as a human. The congregation gasped at his declaration and further bewildered as he continued. Born to a shepherd in the barn of Yasak, he laughed, lived, and learned as a human until commanded by the Holy Spirit to become the Son of the Holy Spirit. At the age of 30, Cardinal de Mee, astounded, found himself even more shocked by the apostle's revelations. It was only through his first sacrifice, chosen by the Holy Spirit, that he, born as a human, transformed into a St, attaining the same divinity as the Holy Spirit. Amidst the whispers and confusion within the congregation, Cardinal de Mee's horror was evident as he muttered heresy. This challenge is the very foundation of our nation. Heresy being preached at a mass I host. In his internal turmoil, he grappled with the conflicting options. If I intervene, I risk insulting the Holy Father who invited him, but allowing this could taint my reputation and make me seem heretical. How do I navigate this situation? Just as he was lost in his thoughts, the apostle of Asrat, proclaimed the Son of Yes. Sak is in the end a son of man. Cardinal de Mes. The wilder man deepened, and just then a voice burst through the door exclaiming, "Shame on you." The apostle in the congregation turned towards the source of the interruption area. In with each stride, she took Ariata. Radiated confidence, declaring, "Who do you think you are?" Denying the Holy Bible, or voice carried her conviction, as the Bible states, the Son of a Sok instructed, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son." Countering, the apostle of Aseto argued, but the eternally existing Holy Spirit created his Son who did not exist previously. Logically, the Son must be a creation area. Tin's gaze remained unwavering as she retorted. "Who are you to claim superior knowledge to saints model in Sandro who served the Son of Yes Sak in their time?" The apostle explained, "I am a simple villager conveying the words of the Holy Spirit." In a remote island village corner, the great Holy Spirit declared, "I am the Creator," and also said, "I am the only God," he continued. Is it not the one and only Almighty Holy Spirit that we worship? Ariata encountered in the Gospel of Paulo chapter 3, verse 16, the Son of Yes, AC is referred to as being manifested in the flesh, the Father and the Holy Spirit. Denying the Bible is impossible. Ariata impressed further, "Then are you denying that?" The Son of Yes, Akiza, St, the Apostle of Azarito, clarified. It's not akin to the claims of the Moors across the sea. The commotion did not go unnoticed by the king and queen who observed the scene. The advisor approached the king, suggesting the situation downstairs is critical. Should I intervene and pull them out? The king's reply held a poignant question. Which of the two do you intend to rescue? The advisor responded. Of course it's the girl. The king, however, hesitated before he stated, if someone must be rescued, it should be the Apostle of Asrat. Why would you consider pulling out a nice girl like her? Just then, Prince Alfonso stepped closer to the balcony, prompting the king to inquire which family does she belong to. She's remarkable. Startled the prince, mumbled it. Sorry, Aiden. This revelation startled the king, and Prince Alfonso's smile conveyed a fan sentiment as he stated, "It's my friend, my favorite friend." As tension hung in the air, Cardinal de Mer, sensing the urgency, muttered, "No, not here. She's completely out of her mind. I must address this swiftly before it escalates any further." In the midst of escalating tension, a judge's voice rang out. "Where is the sinner?" "Priests. Alejandro." His voice carried palpable authority. "By order of the Holy Father, Ludovico, I am here to punish the heretic." The congregation was taken aback. Whispers erupted. The apostle of Aesreto stood in bewilderment, while Cardinal Dimmer's horror was evident as he muttered, "Heresy judge." He quickly moved toward the scene, his mind racing. How did the heresy judge know and arrive here? "I must explain the situation before things worsen," the judge's proclamation continued. "Sent to pay heed that Rivero Council, convened in the year 1122 of the Center calendar, has reached a theological verdict through fair discourse." In the midst of this, several men emerged and escorted the apostle of Aesret. Away in disgrace, the judge declared, "I declare that this also rate a school, which denies the unity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." And with that the judge established it's a heresy, a misinterpretation of the Holy Book. His voice resonated with authority. "Priest Alejandro, the alleged mastermind who misled and deceived the masses, you are hereby excommunicated on the spot." The judge then shifted his focus to Cardinal de Meyer and stated, "And Cardinal Dimmer." Cardinal de Meyer rushed forward, his plea urgent. "But please give me a moment to explain," the judge countered. "You must take responsibility for what this pagan was propagating within the Grand Basilica." Bewildered Cardinal de Mer muttered, "I was deceived. Holy Father Ludovico must have orchestrated this scheme to control my authority. Moreover, the heresy judge acts as the Holy Father's representative here." He fixed a piercing gaze. In other words, his words carry immense weight in this setting. Clenching his fists, he muttered, "I must clarify the situation without aggravating the heresy judge any further," he then asserted. "Judge, there must be some misunderstanding. I did not summon the apostle of Azareto here, however." Ari Aden intervened. "Judge, if you would listen to me for a moment. Yet this event, the sermon preached by the apostle of Azareto and his subsequent punishment by the heresy judge, were relics from her previous life with resolve, Ariata, and whispered from here on." "It's a gamble," the judge inquired. "What? Which family do you belong to? How dare you intervene without grasping the situation?" Area and stated, "I am the second daughter of His Eminence, the Cardinal." Continuing her explanation, she revealed His Eminence. The Cardinal was not cooperating with Alejandro. After his excommunication, he was genuinely concerned about this heresy. Hence he orchestrated a public spectacle. Cardinal de Meyer was taken aback by her admission, quickly seizing her and hissing, "Be quiet. Do you realize where you are?" But what more can this young girl do you? Can Aria to live up to her own expectations? What would she do next? Will she shock the crowd, or will history repeat itself? Comment down below Ariata for part 2. And don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Why not check out this other revenge manhwa, or even a mystery manhwa here on Manhwa by Miss Mysterious? And recommend it to at least 10 people and you will receive blessings. Have a good day.